What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Happy opening day if you're a New York Yankees fan or an MLB fan in general. But today we are not talking about the Yankees. If you want to see some Yankees coverage, go check out Fireside Yankees. But this is Fireside Giants. So we're talking New York Giants. Yes, the team that just signed Russell Wilson this week. How does that affect their draft plans? That's kind of the big talk of the town now. Obviously, the Giants have their starting quarterback in Russell Wilson. He's going to be their QB1 to start the year, but will he end the year as QB1, or will there be a quarterback at the top of the draft? Or do they go all in on Russell Wilson and bring in the best player available at the number 3 overall selection, which, of course, could be one of many players. Of course, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are the hot names there at the number 3 overall pick, but I saw a mock draft today, Alex, from CBS Sports that had the Giants taking Missouri offensive tackle Armand Membao with the number 3 overall pick. So there's options out there for the Giants. We can react to that as well. I think there's going to be a lot of Giants fans that don't like that mock draft. Really hard to pass up on Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter if they're on the board. But if the Giants do pass up, you have to imagine it's probably for a quarterback. And I do have a theory here as to why the Giants still are in the quarterback market despite signing Russell Wilson. And I'll go ahead and get into that at some point in this live stream. It has to do with Russell Wilson's contract details. But Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling? We're a few days removed now. Russell Wilson officially signed the dotted line yesterday. Went to the Knicks game, threw a signed football into the stands at Madison Square Garden. He's having fun. He's happy to be a Giant. And you know what? I'm happy to have him. How are you feeling about the whole thing?
I'm feeling pretty good. And welcome, guys, in the chat. Definitely an exciting day, opening day for the Yankees, of course. And then the Giants have 2 quarterbacks, obviously ones that are a lot better than what we had last season, really the last couple of years, to be quite honest with you, Anthony. Like, I see people online saying, oh, we haven't gotten that much better. And, the combo of Jameis Winston, and obviously, I might actually throw it from these meatballs, by the way. I just ate like meatballs mad fast before the freaking stream started. I'm like choking right now. But anyway, got to talk about the quarterback room. And Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson are head and shoulders above Drew Lock and Daniel Jones. It's not even really remotely a question, guys. I think that the takes and the opinions that this quarterback room isn't astronomically better are absolutely outlandish. Personally, Russell Wilson is just better than Daniel Jones in every respect. Is better deep ball, better accuracy, better everything, better anticipation. Obviously, this guy's won a Super Bowl. This guy's a future Hall of Famer. This is a different caliber of player. Like, this is a competent quarterback, even though he signed, and now, Anthony, you're going to talk about the contract he signed, which is really a backup quarterback contract with the upside of being a fringe starter contract at like $20 million if he plays every game and, goes to the playoffs. There's a lot of incentives built in. But this is a backup deal, and he's way better than Daniel Jones. And I think that's kind of where you're heading with this. Obviously, the fact that the Giants signed 2 guys, really 2 backup quarterbacks in terms of the money they spent, even though Russell Wilson believes he is starting, and I'm pretty sure that they told him he was going to start the year, barring some unforeseen circumstance. They're, like you said earlier when you text me, it feels like they are planning for him to start the way they're treating him. However, I want to get your take and your opinion here on why you think that these contracts impact their draft plans. Obviously, that's the point of this episode, talking about all the different draft avenues now the Giants have and the flexibility. Why do you think they can still go quarterback at 3?
Yeah, a lot of Giants fans saw Russell Wilson signs with the New York Giants. Okay, we're definitely taking Travis Hunter number 3. That was the immediate reaction from a lot of Giants fans. And I get that reaction. And it's definitely a lot more possible now that the Giants do go with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter at number 3. But it's not a lock. It's not a guarantee. They absolutely still could take a quarterback. And the reason that I feel that way is, as you mentioned, the contract that Russell Wilson signs. Now, for the full context, here's what Russell Wilson had to say when asked if he expects to start the season. He said, quote, "I expect to be the starter and come in here and be ready to rock and roll every day," end quote. And he also did go on to be asked, what about being a mentor? Is that something you're open to? And he kind of didn't sound super open to it. This is the full quote. Quote, "I think the first thing is you always handle yourself first, get yourself prepared at the highest level and control what you can control. Part of that is doing everything I can to be my best every day. Then from there, from leading in that sense, everybody else grows with you. They learn from you. They see how you work, see your practice habits and mental habits, and how you go about it and your approach every day," end quote. And honestly, Alex, that quote from Russell Wilson reminded me a lot of something that you said a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the Giants bringing in a veteran quarterback. You were saying that you think the mentorship aspect of bringing in a veteran/bridge is overrated because there's not a whole lot of coaching or teaching that quarterback does. It's really just behaving or studying their behavior, watching how they operate on a day to day. That's really the mentorship aspect of it. And that's what Russell Wilson was saying. He's going to go in, prepare every day to the best of his abilities for himself. And it's on the rookie to kind of study that and adapt that and apply it to his own training regimen. That's basically what you were saying, basically what Russell Wilson was saying. But the reason why I think the Giants might still be in the market for a quarterback, like you said, it's the contract. He signed a 1-year, $10.5 million contract. Guys, for context, the Giants signed Russell Wilson to 10.5 on 1 year, and they signed Jameis Winston to $4 million per season. That's $14.5 million. That is basically the same contract that Daniel Jones just got with the Indianapolis Colts. 1 year, $14 million. And Daniel Jones signed on to be a backup / fringe starter. He's going to compete for that job, but they really signed him to hopefully be the backup for Anthony Richardson. So when you're looking at a $10 million deal, well, you know what that's comparable to? Sam Darnold last year signed a 1 year, $10 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings with the intention of making him their backup quarterback. He ended up starting the season and had a great season, got a big payday this offseason, but they signed him to a 1 year, $10 million deal with the intention of making him a backup. And if you look at other contracts around the NFL right now in that backup quarterback range, like I said, Daniel Jones, 1 year, $14 million is even higher than what Russell Wilson got. And then you have Marcus Mariota at $8 million per season as a backup quarterback to Jaden Daniels. So that $10 million range really is only paying Russell Wilson as a high-end backup quarterback. Now, of course, there are the incentives. He's got over $10 million in incentives in his contract. And I think it was Ian Rappaport. Yeah, he reported that it's, quote, includes a complicated incentive package that can be worth up to $7.5 million more based on a variety of play time. I think that's the key word there. Play time, performance, and playoff incentives. Also up to $3 million is available based on wins and playing more than 50% of the snaps on the season. So this very much is a contract that protects the New York Giants financially against Russell Wilson being sat in favor of a rookie quarterback. The way that this is structured, the way that these incentives are laid out here, $7.5 million more based on playtime incentives and $3 million available for playing more than 50% of snaps. All of that tells me, yeah, they are expecting him to play more than 50% of snaps. That's why they signed him to this deal. But they also know there is a chance they still draft a rookie quarterback and he doesn't earn those incentives. And then they didn't want to pay him starting level money if he was going to be a backup, which is why the base contract is a backup quarterback deal. So that way they can draft a quarterback if they so choose to and if they like who's available at number 3 overall. So that's really the breakdown looking at the contract details, especially with the incentives that Ian Rappaport reported yesterday morning. I think it really puts the full context together. While the Giants could very well go BPA at number 3, you absolutely cannot rule out quarterback with the 3rd overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because if we talk about it from let's say, a self-preservation kind of lens for Joe Schoen, and I think either way you could justify it, what is better for him in the organization? What is better for him in terms of convincing John Mara to give him another year? Is it drafting a Travis Hunter? Let's assume Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are there at 3. Is it drafting a Shedeur Sanders to lock yourself in with a young quarterback? And now John Mara is less incentivized to go and replace your regime because, well, you don't want a new regime to inherit a quarterback they didn't draft, right? Do you go that direction if you're Joe Schoen? Or do you go in the direction of Travis Hunter, who is the best player in this draft class by most, consensus available takes? And, some people have Abdul Carter, but let's say that most people say Travis Hunter's the best player in this draft class. Does Joe Schoen feel as though Hunter can help him win football games and gives you one of the most dynamic two-way players the league has ever seen? A unicorn by all metrics, by all analysts, someone that you could have so much fun with. He could be a brand, he could be an identity. He'll sell jerseys. He'll bring people to the stadium, a guy like Travis Hunter, and then pair him with Neighbors. And then you get the quarterback and drop him into a sequence like that. How do you feel Joe Schoen from his perspective? If you were Joe, what is in your best interest? Is it getting Travis Hunter in this instance and building a team that can win more games right now, or locking in a quarterback at 3 and saying to John Mara, well, we have the quarterback, we've set the stage, let us finish the job? What's the more attractive perspective if you're John Mara? I guess if you are John Mara in this instance and you're trying to figure out what the better, what convinces me to let Joe Schoen have another year?
It's really tough because you could take either one of those angles and attack it and spin it into being in favor of Joe Shane keeping his job. But baseline, if I'm John Mara, the number one thing that's going to convince me to allow Joe Shane to keep his job is competitive football in the month of December. For the last 2 years, the Giants have been basically out of the playoff race by October. That cannot happen this year. If we get to October and the Giants are eliminated on Halloween again, or we get to November and they're already out of the race, yeah, you're firing everybody. It's over. You failed the experiment. However, if we get into December and we are still in the race, maybe we're hanging on to 6 or 7 wins and we're a game or two behind the playoff spot, I think that's enough to say, okay, this was a rebuild year that showed some progress. One more season. Let's go about this. This is the final year of your contract, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, going into 2026. Let's see if you can make things work. I believe that would be the final year of their contract. So let's go ahead and see if you could turn it around. But again, it's contingent on playing meaningful football in December. But then, Alex, I'm going to spin the question back at you. What gives the Giants a better chance of playing meaningful football in December? And to me, it probably would be taking the best player available at number 3 overall, a Travis Hunter Abdul-Carter, an immediate impact player that helps you win games this season. That's going to keep you competitive going into December. So that's why I think that is the choice here that helps Joe Shane probably keep his job better than taking a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the David, who's saying that Travis Hunter weighs 170 pounds. He just weighed 188 pounds at the NFL Combine. So I don't know where you're getting that number, but 18-pound difference is significantly different. Now the question, and you just spun it back to me, and I just wanted to throw in a little bit of extra juice here. I've been using the word identity a lot, right? What was the identity of the Giants when they were Super Bowl contending team, Anthony? Do you know what their identity was? You remember?
I think you're going to go with the defensive line here, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am going to go with the defensive line. That was their identity. That's what made them so dangerous. That's what helped them win Super Bowls. So, on the flip side of it, you look at Abdul-Carter, and I know the Giants just spent the 5th overall pick a couple years ago on Kayvon Thibodeau, but Abdul-Carter has all-pro perennial upside. That is a player, if you pair him with Dexter Lawrence, you pair him with Brian Burns, and Kayvon falls into a 3rd rotational role, or maybe if they even trade him, you suddenly have one of the most dynamic, dominant defensive fronts in the sport, right? You want to beat Jaden Daniels, you got to hit home early. You want to beat Dak Prescott, you got to overwhelm the pass rush. You want to beat Jalen Hurts, you have to have a defensive front capable of beating the Eagles' offensive line. That's the truth. If you want to run back the clock, run back the days of the NASCAR packages. You want to run back the days of an identity, the old school Giants smash mouth football in the trenches. Abdul-Carter is also a damn fun pick to consider. However, this offense has been lacking firepower for ages since OBJ. I mean, really last year it was neighbors and nothing. That's how it felt. And obviously Russell Wilson will help breed more of an offensive system that can be productive across the board, not just a one-trick pony and Neighbors who does it all for you. They can spread the ball out more. And if you get, Neighbors and Hunter and you put them at WR1, WR2, you have Wandale, Darius Slayton, and you still got Tyrone Tracy. We still want to draft a running back in this draft too to pair with Tracy long-term. And you got Theo Johnson, who we like. And then you drop a young quarterback into a system like that, and you have Russell Wilson for a year. Now you can justify trading the farm, trading future first-round picks in 2026 to go up and get the quarterback that is you can just drop into that system. Or you take a dev quarterback this year and maybe they show a lot of promise in training camp and, during the season behind the scenes, and they feel good about these guys. All the options are now blown into the open. And it's how do you decide which one's the right one? That's where I'm kind of running into a problem. How do you decide? Do you want to create an identity in the trenches with the Carter? Do you want to create a nasty, young, cost-efficient, cost-controlled wide receiver duo with Hunter and Neighbors? Or do you get a quarterback to sit there and not play in 2025, but take over the reins in 2026 when you still have your first-round picks? And you could draft a receiver next year. You could theoretically do that to pair with Neighbors. So, there are so many different possibilities that now are open for the Giants. I almost am scared there's too many because it's how do they pick the right one? And I'm nervous they're going to pick the wrong one based on their track record.
I think there's multiple right ones. I think like total package is saying can't lose, man. This is a really good position to be sitting in at number 3 overall in this draft class. Like this is going to be really hard to mess up. If the Giants mess this one up, I mean, yeah, you are firing everybody. But you said a lot there, and I have a lot of thoughts that I want to rattle back at you based on the things that you said. First of all, I really like you bringing up the sell the farm kind of idea. Somebody's clearly been listening to a lot of Anthony Rivardo on Fireside Giants, so I could see that's your homework's being done here. But what I wanted to say is to the point of turning back the clock, essentially, is kind of how you were describing this, going with Abdul Carter, returning to the smash mouth defensive line heavy football that the New York Giants had years ago. On one hand, I want to say it's time to stop looking into the past. It's time to start looking into the future and modernizing this franchise, because what the Giants, I feel, have been doing, or at least were in the Dave Gettleman era, was a lot of looking into the rearview mirror, a lot of trying to replicate what worked for them years ago. And the game changed. And so therefore trying to do what worked before isn't going to necessarily always work again. And I think that's the problem that the New York Giants faced for several years. On the other hand, I think having a dominant defensive line is one of those timeless things. If you have a good pass rush, you'll always have a successful defense because of that pass rush. It's just towing a thin line here between, are you taking Carter because you think he's going to give you the dominant pass rush and you think he's the best player available? Or are you taking Carter because you're trying to replicate a previous identity? I agree with you. The Giants need to find their identity. They don't need to recapture an identity, though. It's time to forge a new identity here in New York, a new Giants way, because the old Giants way, in my opinion, has died. It especially died in the middle of a 10-game losing streak during the 100th season of the franchise. It's time to modernize, move forward, and build a new way to be the New York Giants, in my opinion. Now, that's not me saying don't take Abdul Carter. That's just me saying take him for the right reasons, not to replicate 2007. We're in 2025 now. It's a new year, and it's a new decade. It's a new dawn. Let's try and move forward and be a modern football team. And then that's going to transition me to making a little bit of a case here for Travis Hunter. Of course, you can make the whole two-way receiver and cornerback argument, but that's not where I'm going to go with this, Alex. In fact, I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. Let's name the top offenses in the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs, right? Let's use them as the first example. They have 2 WR1s. That's how they built their offense. Travis Kelce, I know he's a tight end, but he was their primary number 1 receiver. And then they got Rashee Rice. That's 2 primary number 1s, and they had Tyreek Hill before then. Alex, name some other offenses in the NFL, and I'm going to my point here is going to become clear after you name some of these offenses. Just rattle off of a couple of top ones.
Maybe the Bengals.
Yes. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, 2 WR1s. All right, rattle off another one.
I was going to say the Falcons, but their receivers aren't necessarily great.
Well,
they have
Falcons have Drake London and Bijan Robinson, so that's 2
Mooney.
primary playmakers. Mooney's a good number 2, but the point here is they've got a primary receiver in Drake London and then a primary playmaker. Let's just use that term for their running back at Bijan Robinson. Rattle off another one. Buccaneers, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, 2 primary playmakers. Throw out another one. We could keep going. The Rams. Yes, Devontae Adams now and Puka Nacua, 2 number 1 receivers.
And
Kyron. How about yes, another playmaker there. How about in our division, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley? Overkill. That's why they just won the damn Super Bowl, as unfortunate as that is. Anyway, you get my point. A modern NFL offense is not reliant on one player. Gone are the days of Larry Fitzgerald carrying you to the Super Bowl. You need Malik Neighbors plus a running mate. And that running mate absolutely could be Travis Hunter. Now, I'm not going to discount the fact that Tyrone Tracy is a good running back, and he could be that playmaker in the backfield. But let's be for real. Travis Hunter is an otherworldly talent. He just won the Fred Biletnikoff Award for being the best wide receiver in football, won the Heisman as well, and won the Chuck Bednarik, whatever his last name is, trophy for being the defensive player of the year in football. We've never seen a talent like him. And if you want to stick him on the offensive side of the ball, that's how you modernize. That's your new identity, which is more in line with the modern NFL game. Yeah, the defensive line is always going to be important. Winning in the trenches, always important. But the modern NFL, to have one of the best teams, Ronald's right, you have to have a quarterback. The Giants have a starting level quarterback now. But you know what makes life a lot easier for a quarterback? 2 number 1 wide receivers, dominant playmakers all over the place. That's going to make a guy like a Jalen Hurts look like a Super Bowl MVP. So that's really my point here. I'm making the case Travis Hunter would be my selection because that's how you build a modern super team, basically, in the NFL.
And let me add even more value to what you're saying, right? Not only do you have two superstar receivers, guys, let me just preface this by saying, think about the cost efficiency of having two elite receivers on rookie contracts with their fifth-year options, right? We just saw Jamar Chase get $40 million per season, right? CeeDee Lamb is going to get $35 million per season. Like, having Neighbors and Travis Hunter, two guys that are going to be worth, and you could already argue, a team, if Neighbors was a free agent, would be paying him 30 plus million per season. Travis Hunter, assuming he's going to be elite, is going to be making at least 30 million per season in projected money. And down that road, 5 years from now, we're talking about maybe 50 million per season with the cap increasing. Having players on cost control like that, right, for 5 years, think about where we could spend that money. And then we're going to get the quarterback. We're going to draft the quarterback. We're going to find that player. And then you have a cost-controlled quarterback as well. You can go get the best offensive tackles you possibly could imagine. You can go get the best possible pass rushers you can possibly imagine. Think about this. How about this, Anthony? I'll give you something crazy to think about. What happens if the Dallas Cowboys can't afford to keep Micah Parsons? And the Giants have Travis Hunter and they go and trade for, and go and trade up and get a quarterback. What if, like, I know they're probably franchise tagging before anything, but you could theoretically say like a player like that could be traded. You know what I mean? Who knows? They probably wouldn't trade to us, but you know what I'm trying to say? It could be another player as well.
Not Micah Parsons, but yeah, sure, another player.
Just an example.
Danielle Hunter either hit free agency or was traded to the Texans. So yeah, you're right. Like sometimes top pass rushers do shake free. You never know. But I want to also just add in the point that you're making, the point that I'm making, really tie this all together. You're mentioning contracts, the way that they're skyrocketing. Here are the top contracts paid out to non-quarterbacks in the NFL. Jamar Chase being number one wide receiver, Myles Garrett as an edge, Danielle Hunter as an edge, Max Crosby as an edge, Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb as a wide receiver, Nick Bosa as an edge, DK Metcalf as a wide receiver, AJ Brown as a wide receiver, Chris Jones, interior defensive lineman, then Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brandon Ayuk, both wide receivers. The top 10 to 15 highest paid contracts in the NFL are all outside of the quarterback position. They're all wide receivers and edge rushers. So really, you're saying that the Giants have a lot of options here. They might screw it up. You can't, because if you take Travis, you're getting a great value contract with a star potential player. And if you take Abdul Carter, you're getting a great value contract at a star potential player. And those are the two most premium non-quarterback positions in the NFL. So you got to go, in my opinion, the mock draft today, Armand Membao at number 3 overall, offensive tackle. Sure, tackles are great. They're not the premium position like they used to be. That's old way of thinking. Wide receiver, edge, it's got to be Travis or it's got to be Carter. Both of those based on contract projections and potential impact, either one would be an absolute home run selection. And that's why I think Joe Schoen, I know that quarterback is the most important thing, but I think you can live for a year potentially with a Russell Wilson. And when you have an opportunity to land either a WR1 or an edge here at number 3 overall, I think it's going to be really, really difficult for Joe Schoen to pass up this opportunity.
I 100% agree. And let's talk about Hunter and kind of the insurance policy that he provides you. So we're talking about him as an individual playing receiver or cornerback. Let me float this to you guys that, if you don't want Travis Hunter, I'm going to give you a kind of perspective that maybe will make you rethink that. What happens if Deonte Banks or Paulson Adebo get hurt? Who's playing cornerback? Cordell Flott, who's very unproven and inconsistent. You now have the best possible insurance policy on earth. What happens if Malik Neighbors has a concussion and you lose your WR1? You now have the best insurance policy on the planet because you get to fill with Travis Hunter. You can ask him, hey, buddy, Deonte Banks just got hurt or Paulson Adebo just got hurt. We need a cornerback. Can you play? Can you play there today? Can you play there for a couple of weeks while he recovers? Or what if Neighbors gets hurt and we lose our WR1 and we're like, oh crap, like our whole offense is predicated on getting him the football and maximizing his skill set. Hunter, step into that WR1 role. Darius Slayton, you're WR2, you're used to being that. You don't skip a beat in that instance. You're still able to maximize. Like that's what you call depth, right? Travis Hunter gives you the unbelievable asset of having the best possible depth, a high-level starter at 2 different positions, right? He can practice both positions and be ready for the opportunity if it comes. You know, if they need a cornerback, he can step in and play on day 1. If they need a receiver, he can step in and play on day 1. That insurance policy at 2 critical positions on both sides of the football is one of the rarest things from one player that you will ever find. It is why he's so valuable. It is why you cannot pass on him, because Abdul Carter, he's awesome, but he can only play one position. He is an edge rusher. If an offensive tackle, if Andrew Thomas gets hurt, Abdul Carter's not going and playing left tackle, guys. But if Neighbors gets hurt, Hunter's playing WR1 for you. If Paulson Adebo gets hurt, Travis Hunter's going and playing your CB1 for you. That's the type of player that he could be. You want to pass on an opportunity like that? And I understand, like, for a quarterback, I'm not the biggest Sanders fan. If you guys know me, that's been my opinion this whole time. I would rather take Travis Hunter than Sanders if both are on the board. And I'd rather even consider trading back up to the first round for Jackson Dart, because I think that Sanders is closer to Jackson Dart than Cam Ward is to Shedeur Sanders. That's my personal opinion. Because also the same thing, Jackson Dart's a year younger than Sanders, and so is Travis Hunter, by the way. He's also a year younger than Sanders, actually a year and a half younger than Sanders. So, you know, these guys are young. Hunter's he's not even there physically yet. Like, physically, he's not even at his peak, right? Probably in terms of speed, probably in terms of, you know, his football intelligence and IQ. He is so experienced, but he's not even close to his peak just yet. That is a weapon and an identity in of itself, right? Hunter is an identity by himself, right? You just don't find stuff like this, right? You don't find players like this every day. If you have a chance to find somebody like this, he will be a player that Giants fans obsess over for a decade. And a really, really fun player to watch. And Neighbors, Russell Wilson, talk about, like, just upside. You now have, and talk about, like, if you wanted to trade for a quarterback, if an opportunity arises next year, or you wanted to trade up for a quarterback, you now have a really damn good position and foundation where you could plug in a young quarterback or a veteran quarterback and feel damn good that you're going to be a competing team. And at the very least, you're going to be, you know, a fun team to watch every single Sunday while that quarterback gets up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of great points there, and the one that I really want to hammer home, like, we haven't seen a talent like Travis Hunter before in the NFL, and you could argue we've probably seen a talent like Abdul Carter. We know how impactful he can be and how amazing he is. We've literally never seen a Travis Hunter before. The only comparable situation, I guess, when Patrick Peterson was a dominant special teams player and cornerback, played like, I don't even know if he actually got snaps at wide receiver and, like, caught passes maybe once or twice. And yeah, Dion obviously contributed on all 3 phases, but very sparingly at wide receiver. But we've never seen a guy do what Travis Hunter did. And then the last point that I'll make before I get to these super chats here, just because you brought up the insurance policy of Travis Hunter, you know, the built-in insurance, he can be a wide receiver or a cornerback. I will also make that case for Abdul Carter. I think a lot of people do overlook the fact that, yes, he is a dominant edge rusher. Before he transitioned to edge rusher, he was a dominant inside linebacker. So if he doesn't cut it on the edge at the NFL level, put him at inside linebacker, and I bet you he'll be dominant there. I don't think he's going to have that problem. I think he's going to dominate on the edge. Very similar story to Micah Parsons, but I will just throw that out there. He is also a versatile player that can fill more than one need for your defense and line up in more than one place. Jay with the super chat, thank you so much. I don't trust Sanders. Rather have Dart in the second, sit him for a year, than start him next year. Alex, I know that, you know, you kind of just mentioned this. You think that Sanders and Dart are pretty comparable as prospects. I don't know if Dart's going to last to the second round. He might not. I think that there are a couple teams at the back end of the first. The Rams being an example, just had this negotiation with Stafford. They almost parted ways. Like, I could see one of these teams at the back end of the first being a little bit sneaky and snagging a quarterback to sit for a couple of years before taking over as a starter. Steelers as well could be a team in the quarterback market, right? Like, there's a couple of them. But if you're looking at it from that perspective, I know that this super chat says, don't trust Sanders, rather have Dart in the second. How comfortable are you? Obviously, I think you're pretty comfortable with Dart in the second, but how comfortable are you with trading up into the first, potentially into the 20s, making a pretty big jump there, 12 or so spots, so that you can secure the likes of a Jackson Dart?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make it apparent that I do think Sanders is better than Dart, but I also think Dart is a year younger and played in a system that did not really ask him to do high-level NFL stuff. I mean, if you look at Sanders, you know, work with Pat Shurmur, an NFL coach. So there's a lot of similarities in terms of what he's going to be experiencing in the NFL. Obviously, that system was predicated on, I think his screen share was 21%. So it was a Pat Shurmur offense. Like, it was very dink and dunk, very West Coast style, very simple. You know, obviously that's going to be a bit different. Brian Dable, we know Brian Dable wants to run an offense that's explosive. That's the word he used last year. He just couldn't because his quarterbacks weren't able to. So I do think like Cam Ward would have been a perfect player for him. But in this instance, don't think it's going to be possible. We'll talk about that in a little bit in terms of like what you think it would take to go up, because I know we're hearing Adam Schefter say that the Giants, Browns, and Saints will all likely make an offer to the Titans to move up to 1. Just don't know what that'll look like. So we'll discuss that in a bit. But moving up into I don't think Dart's going to be there in the second round. I think he's probably a mid to late first round pick, maybe like the mid 20s, early 20s, which leaves the Giants in a situation where they could trade up into the first round to get Dart. And it would cost a lot less than trading up into the top 5 picks next year, which would cost multiple first round picks, most likely. I think that to move up into the back end of the first to get Dart, it may only cost you like next year's second round pick and then maybe a third this year. I don't think it's going to cost you a first round pick next year personally, because this draft class, the fall off after like pick 15 is pretty steep. I think teams are probably going to be pretty excited to lock in 2026 draft capital. And I think the Giants, if they like Dart enough, if they see the upside, if they think he's a gunslinger and he fits the mold and he could be that good, I would be aggressive and absolutely go up and get him. It's just a matter of if they feel he's going to be that caliber of player. He's an athlete. We watched him, Anthony. We thought, I don't know about you, but I thought he was a better athlete than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. He's capable of running and he's capable of doing some stuff, and he can throw on the move. He's fearless. There was a lot of red flags for me with his pocket movement. He's bailed out of the pocket really early sometimes. His mechanics were a bit off sometimes. Like there was some red flags there, but nothing that isn't fixable. Like it wasn't physical stuff for me. A lot of it was just bad tendencies and habits, a lot of it. So I do think with good coaching, he could improve. I would definitely consider, if he dropped to the mid 20s, moving up to get him in the first round.
I would too. I don't think it would cost a ton. And I will say for Jackson Dart, I think, you're kind of saying it there. He's got like all he needs physically. He's got a pretty strong arm. No, he doesn't have a Josh Allen arm, but he's got, I think, an above average arm. He's pretty athletic and mobile. He throws the ball accurately. A lot of the stuff that you were mentioning, those weaknesses, they're very fixable, and it's really a result of a lack of experience more than anything for me. Just doesn't have experience in a pro style offense or enough experience starting high level football games. Like he just needs to play more, or he needs to sit and learn from a really good coach for a while before he takes over. So I do really like Dart. I think in terms of upside, yeah, Cam Ward's ceiling is like near the top of the NFL. But if you're talking baseline where they're starting, floor all the way to upside, I think the upside is really, really high for a guy like Jackson Dart. And I'm going to throw this out there just because it's related to this super chat before we move on to the next one. I made a joke like a month or two ago, Alex, on this channel. Jackson Dart, at the end of the NFL scouting combine, Shedeur Sanders at the NFL scouting combine, his draft stock seemed to start to slip. And I made the joke, man, if this slide keeps going, maybe the Giants land Travis at number 3 and they trade back up into the first and land Shedeur Sanders later. I know it sounded crazy when I said it. I was kind of joking, but kind of wasn't. It's starting to sound like there is a possibility here where he could slide in the draft, and maybe then, the Giants would make that trade. Maybe that would take the future first round pick or a couple future seconds, whatever. Maybe that happens. That's just dependent on what the teams behind the Giants feel about Shedeur Sanders. I still think there's a chance he goes number 2 overall in front of us. I think there's a chance the Giants take him at 3, but if they don't take him at 3, he absolutely could slide. And we're talking about trading up for Dart. If he does slide on draft day, I'll be live here on the channel reacting. Maybe the Giants make that trade. We'll see. I think it's time to start putting that one on the radar now that we're seeing some scoopers or whatever inside reports and rumors saying that could be a possibility. Dip the Tip, nice name. $2 super chat. Really do appreciate you. I'm late, but how does cap look going into the draft? So right now I've got over the cap pulled up on my right hand here. $13 million in salary cap space for the New York Giants. That's not effective salary cap space. That's total. So I would imagine the effective number is somewhere closer to $3 million. However, this is not accounting for Russell Wilson being on the books. That is at least a $10 million cap hit. So the New York Giants are really left in the negatives, technically in effective cap space right now, meaning in order to prepare for the draft, they are going to need to restructure a certain contract or extend a certain contract. They have to make some sort of cap saving move between now and the NFL draft. So whenever that does happen, of course, we will react to it on the channel and give you the analysis of it.
Yes, we will. And listen, with the Wilson contract, I think what they're going to do is restructure some contracts here to obviously get positive. And the way they're going to do that is they can open up 22 million by restructuring Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence, but they probably don't need. Maybe they will do both actually, because they want to go into the season with around $8 to $9 million in available money, and they have so much next year they can afford to do this. Because it'll spread out. Basically, when you restructure that money, the added funds to this year, it just gets divided out between the remainder of the contract. So Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas still have multiple years left. So it's really like $2-3 million increases for the rest duration of their deals. So I do think they will probably restructure those contracts. Maybe they even restructure Brian Burns. I think he would open up 16 million if I'm not mistaken. So that's another opportunity for them. Listen, Russell Wilson's, like you mentioned, only $10 million in guarantees. So it's really easy for them to fit that in. They really don't even need to restructure more than one guy, and they don't even need to restructure all of it. I actually think they'll probably restructure Burns because he has the longest contract right now. He has 4 more years left on his deal. Restructure $10 million of it, spread it over the next 4 years. It's like $2 million per season. It's nothing, $2.2 million per season. Easy money. They can open it up, and I do think that this is a good opportunity when you're looking at just how the Giants are going to manipulate their salary to, so just get above the cap space right now and have a little bit of money left over so they can address any emergencies.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth mentioning on that topic before we move to this next super chat that this is why we commended Joe Shane for signing Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas to their contracts as early as he did. He got those deals done a year ahead of time, didn't wait for free agency to start to loom, got them done nice and early. And the reason that he did that is because the AAV comes in at a price tag then that's not even possible now. I mean, if Dexter Lawrence signed that contract today, he'd probably making at least an extra $8 million in average annual salary. So now the New York Giants can comfortably restructure his deal, raise the cap hits on his deal for the remainder of it, and it looks like one of the top defensive line contracts in the league. It just becomes a more normal average annual salary compared to where he was, because right now he's playing low-key at a discounted rate, and I could actually see him asking for a pay raise between now and the start of the season. So I think that's something to keep on the radar as well. Bear 315 with a super chat, thank you so much, says probably not going to happen, but how would you feel trading back and getting Tyler Warren? So this is the thing. If the Giants trade back, there's only a handful of players that I think are on that short list that they look at and say, okay, that's who we're going to draft. Tyler Warren would definitely be one of them. First of all, I don't think that drafting Tyler Warren means that, well, let me rephrase. I don't think that Theo Johnson should prevent you from drafting Tyler Warren. I like Theo Johnson. He definitely showed some flashes of promise last season, a good, talented rookie. But Tyler Warren might not be at that level that Brock Bowers was at last year, but he's pretty damn close. He's a really, really good tight end. And like we were saying earlier, Alex, it's not about having one playmaker in an offense. It's about having two. You could do it like the Bengals do, 1A, 1B with Jamar and T, two number one wide receivers. Or there are other teams. Let's take the Kansas City Chiefs as an example. Tyreek and Travis Kelce, or Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, 1A, 1B, one of those being a tight end. Absolutely possible. So a tight end can really function as a WR1 in the right offense. And Tyler Warren is such a talented prospect and player that in the right system, yeah, he could have that potential to maximize an offense and really strive the way that you saw Brock Bowers did this past year. So I love Tyler Warren. I don't think the Giants are likely to trade back in this year's class for the reasons we mentioned earlier. You are automatically hitting a home run at number 3 if you take Hunter or Abdul Carter. However, if they do trade back, stockpile some picks, Tyler Warren would be near the top of my short list of players to target in a trade down scenario.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can never have enough quality players at any given position. Theo Johnson isn't stopping me from drafting true and tried tight end who's going to be an absolute weapon, right? A lot of people have the Cowboys taking Tyler Warren, actually, and that's really scary because the Cowboys and tight ends traditionally are excellent matches. They also develop them really, really well. So maybe they don't actually want to spend a pick this high. They feel they can develop a player. But Tyler Warren, if we traded back, I also really like McMillan. If you're going to go with Hunter because you want another receiver alongside Neighbors, McMillan's not a bad option either if you want to go back to like 5 or 6 and a team wants Carter or Hunter, you might be able to get a valuable draft pick. You might be able to get an extra second round pick moving back a couple spots and still get a starting caliber, high upside receiver in McMillan. So who knows what they would want to do. I find it hard to fathom passing on Carter or Hunter. But if a team, and I'll say this, Anthony, if a team said to you, we'll give you our second round pick right now to move up 3 spots, would you do it? Or are you sticking and picking?
So we'd be picking 6 then?
Yeah, let's say 6.
A future second round pick? No, dude. Honestly,
How about
no.
this year? This year, second round pick?
No. Travis
No.
and Abdul are too good for me to pass up personally.
I agree.
This is the one that might get me, and I brought up this example when the Houston Texans traded from 12 to 3 for Will Anderson, and they gave up a future first round pick. That maybe entices me, but I think the benefits of moving down a couple spots for an extra second, here's an underrated talking point that we don't mention enough. That's another pretty lofty price tag on a rookie contract immediately this year for a second round pick. So
Right.
You have to keep that in mind. The Giants have a lot of draft picks this year. In particular, they have 5 inside the top 110 picks. So adding another top 100 pick to this rookie draft class actually really inflates the price of the rookie draft class and forces them to not only restructure maybe just one contract like Dexter Lawrence, maybe now they also have to restructure Brian Burns. So that is an underrated talking point. There's a thin line between having a big and talented draft class and inflating your draft class to too big of a size to where the cap hits start to get a little bit outrageous. And all of a sudden it's August and you're adding $20 million to your books just to bring your rookie class under contract. So I think that's an underrated talking point. But for a future first to move down further, how do you feel about that, Alex? If you were potentially offered to move just outside of the top 10, but you're getting a 2026 first round pick, again, reminiscent of what the Houston Texans did, is that something that entices you?
Oh, it's tough because now you're obviously moving out of the realm of getting one of the top prospects in this draft, but you could still walk away with a really solid player. Maybe Tyler Warren now becomes a possibility for you, and you don't get the receiver, but you get the elite tight end, and you get 2026 draft capital, and that allows you to move up and get a quarterback next year. It gives you an insurance policy, for that exactly. If you want to get the quarterback, you can. It's interesting. It really is. It's really, or, I'll even float this. It opens the idea. If you got Tyler Warren or you move back to whatever, 12, let's say, and you went with the best player available, whoever that might be, and you traded up into the first round to get Jackson Dart. Now, next year, you have 2 first round picks that you can just go BPA and really reinforce your roster. Now you have your quarterback theoretically on the roster. You have whatever BPA player you went and 2 first round picks next year and a really solid, starting group of talent. And now we're getting really creative here, but obviously it's not the craziest thing in the world to consider something like that because Joe Schoen likes to do crazy crap. He likes to do crazy things. We've seen it so far. He likes to trade around. He likes to go make trades for players. If he sees a deal that's too good to pass up on, an opportunity that's too good to pass up on, I think it's also a selling point for John Mara. If you're Joe Schoen, you go to John Mara and say, I got us a quarterback who we think could be great. He's going to sit for a year. He's young. He has plenty of time to develop. And they got us an extra 2 first round picks. And I got us a BPA player in the first round who could be a star tight end or a star pass rusher or a star offensive lineman. Who knows what they would do. It's not the craziest thing in the world to consider that option.
This guy Alex out here is operating like Kevin Costner in the movie Draft Day. He's wheeling and dealing all over.
He won at the end, man.
he got what he wanted. Let's see if Joe Schoen can wheel and deal similarly and get what he wants. Might not be all that realistic, but also the NFL is so crazy. Is anything unrealistic at this point? So much happens every single year. I didn't really think Matthew Stafford would be on the trade block, but then according to reports, they came awfully close to trading him away. So you really never know. You're making some good points here in terms of trading up, trading down, trading all over the place. But let's tie that into this next super chat from Jay. Thank you so much for the super chat. Love watching the videos, boys. Let's be honest here. We all need a Manning to save this team. So Alex, the Giants trade down, get that future first round draft pick. You said it. Maybe they could use a future first. Let's win for a year with Russell Wilson, build up the roster, take BPA or trade down, take the best player, in the middle of the first. You get an extra first next year. Those 2 firsts could be used to move up, sell the farm, get your quarterback in 2026. I don't know if Arch Manning's going to declare in 2026, but of course, that's going to be the hot name the Giants fans want. I don't think that Arch Manning is a realistic option for the New York Giants because I think he comes out in 2027. But hey, I think we'll just, float that out there. The more general principle, like you said, trade down, get an extra first next year. That might be enticing for a team led by Joe Shane. Maybe wants to win games this year, but has eyes on the 2026 quarterback class potentially.
It's possible. Yeah. I don't think Arch is declaring next year, obviously. Probably more like 2027. It seems like it's possible, but I don't know, man. Like I look at the options next season and we just don't know who's going to be good. Obviously it's so early. We know Nussmeier and Aller is going to be there, but what kind of seasons are they going to have? Are they going to be good? Are they going to get hurt? Are they going to be, is Carson Beck going to be good? Who knows? He's in Miami now. Like, who the hell is going to emerge from that class? And I'm sure there will be, obviously. And then as we're seeing right now, no matter what quarterback it is, no matter what their limitations are, they always end up bubbling to the top of the first round. You know what I mean? Like most of the time, especially in a draft class where there's only 2 really first round graded quarterbacks. So you'd see the overvalue there, but I don't know.
Well, let me throw this out there. Most of the time, you're right, but not all the time. Remember, Will Levis was supposed to be a top 5 draft pick, fell into the second round, which is why a lot of people are saying, hey, there's a lot of buzz surrounding Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, maybe a lot of people think he's a top 5 pick, but maybe the league doesn't view him as a first round selection. He could fall well outside of the top 10.
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now. If Sanders slides past the Giants, I don't know how far he's going to fall. You know what I mean?
I think he might fall really far.
It could be like if the Browns say, yeah, our analysis isn't as high as people thought, or the Giants say even he's there, and we went BPA, that's going to say a lot, and teams are going to get spooked by it. And if he slides, and I don't think this is going to happen, but it's not the craziest thing in the world. We've seen it happen before, as you're saying. Well, if he does slide to the 15-20 range and you're the Giants, maybe at that point you're like, yeah, maybe we'll trade back up into the first round to get him because he's still a quality quarterback and there's potential there. We just didn't feel comfortable taking him at 3 because of the red flags, but maybe at 15 or 20, you can reasonably say it's worthwhile if it costs a logical amount. I'm not trading a first round pick next year to go up and get him, but if it was a second round pick next year, maybe I would consider.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Like, it's something that we have to keep on our radar because if the Giants do pass on him at 3, I definitely think he could slide similar to how Will Levis slid. And you know what? Not just Will Levis, Alex. Let's talk about future Hall of Famer that the New York Giants were in on. Well, yeah, Lamar Jackson is a great example. I didn't even think of that one. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. He was potentially supposed to go number 1 to the 49ers in that draft, fell all the way into the 20s, sat by, like I said. But Lamar Jackson is also a good point. He had buzz as a top 5 to 10 to 20 pick, and then all the way fell to number 32. I think he was drafted, the last pick of the first round. So, yeah, it's possible. We don't know who's going to slide. The draft is crazy. It's a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so fun and entertaining. And that's why you all need to tune in on that Thursday night, draft night, because I'll be live for the entirety of the first round. I won't go ahead and turn the camera off after the Giants make their pick in number 3. I'm going to sit there for the entire first round just in case we do something crazy at the end of the first and trade up for a quarterback. I will be live the whole time. Nick Bavas for the super chat here. Thank you so much. Says, guys, I've been doing those PFF and PFN mock drafts. Trading first round picks and a second from New England works all the time. Do you think it's realistic? Second from New England, first round picks. Realistic to trade for who? Who are we trading for here? Is this for the first overall pick?
Trading first round picks and a second from New England works all the time. Trading first round picks and a second from New England. I don't know where the
I think I got it. Trade down 1 spot to get the second round pick from New England, I think is what he's talking about.
Okay.
I think realistic is probably not, but to trade down 1 spot, the Giants would have to. I think the only way that happens is if Shedeur Sanders is off the board. If Shedeur Sanders is on the board, I think the Giants, actually, I don't know. Alex, what's your take on it? Because I'm a little stumped here. I don't know. I don't think it's realistic for the Giants to move down 1 spot just because we see those happen very rarely inside the top 5. But, with New England obviously wanting to secure Travis Hunter is what we keep hearing. And maybe the Giants prefer Bull. I think, that could be the avenue.
That's what I was going to say. If the Giants are sitting there like, we'll happy take Hunter or Carter, we're happy with either of those 2 guys. And the Patriots are like, we want this guy. And if I was Joe Shane, I'd be calling the Pats up like, there's a couple teams that want to move up right now. They want Travis Hunter, but I know you want Travis Hunter. What are you going to give us to guarantee that you get him? Because we are going to take him if we're not, we're going to take him, or we're going to trade back a couple more spots and get a future draft capital. But we want one of these two guys. So like, make us an offer and we can get it done. You guys get your guy. We walk away happy. Everyone's happy. I don't think that's the craziest thing to see happen, but I don't know. Like, I'm happy with Carter or Hunter. So like, in that instance, you walk away with a really, really good player, blue chip prospect, and extra draft capital. So it's possible. But that would be interesting. I still think the Giants would be silly to, even if it's, for Carter or Hunter, maybe I would probably go back one spot and get extra draft capital and take one of those two guys. But Hunter is one of those players, man. Like, if you've watched Hunter, this dude is a freak. Like, this guy is, I feel like some people somehow managed to underrate how good he actually is. This is a guy that's not even fully polished yet. You know what I mean? Anthony, you see him, like, some of his route concepts are not fully polished yet. As a cornerback, he's not fully polished yet. And he is by far like WR1 in this draft class. He is by far CB1 in this draft class. And he's not even fully there yet. If you get him there, if the coaching is good, and the Giants select a guy like this, the upside is literally endless. It's endless. And you saw last year with Sam Darnold, of all players. And he had a great year, but I wouldn't say he's like a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. I'd say he's maybe right outside that range. You saw what he did with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, right? What can the Giants do with Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter? You're talking about an elite offense. The Vikings also had a good defense. Sam Darnold just squandered. He just flopped in the playoffs. As simple as that. If the Giants have those two guys cost controlled over the next couple of years, their defense is solid. They made really good defensive moves this offseason, in my opinion. This team has a ton of potential. Like, you get Hunter, like even Russell Wilson at quarterback, Anthony, I think you agree with this. We're a minimum 6-win, 7-win team. I know it's not enough. It's not enough, but it could be like, the sky is really the limit. Like, I don't know how far this team, if it all clicks, I just don't trust Shane Bowen, to be quite honest with you. But like, offensively, Brian Dable is going to make that offense the best offense we've seen in probably 10 years on this team. We have had miserable offenses. Like, we don't even remember what competency looks like, guys. Like, if that was the case, you got Hunter, you got Neighbors, you got Russell Wilson, and Tyrone Trace, you get another running back in there, your offensive line's head and shoulders better, healthy. You are looking at an offense that's going to be at least average, and it's going to be like, whoa. Like, we're not going to be used to that level of production. That's how, like, down bad we are as a fan base. We don't remember what it feels like to be a competent offense. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I don't even recall. Like, scoring 24 points a game is like mind-blowing to me. You know what I mean? Like, we averaged like 16 last season. We're so unused to that type of success. I really think it would be fun to watch, man.
I do too. And I want to make this point. Last year, what I was saying during the draft, Malik Neighbors is idiot proof, right? I don't care who the Giants have at quarterback. He's going for 1,200 yards. What happened last year? They had 4 shitty quarterbacks and he still went for 1,200 yards, right? So I think that there's also an element to where Malik Neighbors plus Travis Hunter, plus, let's not discount Darius Slayton in a WR3 role and Wan'Dale Robinson potentially as a WR4 at that point, plus Tyrone Tracy Jr. That offense is pretty idiot-proof, and my point here isn't the fact that we could just stick in any quarterback and get some points. My point is Russell Wilson's not an idiot. He can actually get some points up on the board with an offense that features Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter. So, the idiot-proof theory was true for Malik Neighbors, and then I think that Russell Wilson is good enough where I know he's not the elite talent he used to be, but he's definitely good enough to get some points on the board with 2 elite playmakers like Hunter and Neighbors if they both reach their potential. So as we're winding down into the final minutes of this live stream, got another super chat here from Sam. Sam, appreciate you being in here for another live stream. You're in here for pretty much all of them. You're one of the goats of the Fireside Giants community. Do appreciate the super chat. He says, I'm feeling good for the first time in a long time. We have so many options now. Honestly, listen, I'm going to state this plainly. I don't care if it's 36-year-old Russell Wilson or 45-year-old Russell Wilson. The fact that Russell Wilson is wearing a Giants jersey this season is really cool to me. He's been one of my favorite players in the NFL since he's been in the NFL. Like, I've always been a big Russell Wilson fan. I've always dreamed of him in Giants blue, but never thought it would be possible. Now it's not the Russell Wilson that I once dreamed of who's joining Giants blue, but it's still Russell Wilson, and it's still really cool. And it gives the Giants competency at the quarterback position, which we haven't had in over 700 days. So it's important to me. It's exciting as hell to me. So I'm feeling you on this. And also the fact that the Giants are sitting number 3 in a draft class with 2 potential elite talents on the board in front of them, and they have a competent quarterback. They do have so many options, like you're saying, Sam. I agree with you. And yeah, I'm really excited, man, because I just really like Russell Wilson. I'm happy that he's a Giant. And yeah, they've got a lot of options because he's a Giant. So it's exciting stuff.
It absolutely is exciting stuff. It's, we find reasons to be optimistic every year, Anthony, but I can tell you one thing right now that I haven't experienced in a long time, knowing that our quarterbacks are going to be fun to watch, knowing that Russell Wilson is going to be astronomically better than Daniel Jones, knowing that Jameis Winston was better than Daniel Jones. Like, that's our backup to the backup, really. Russell Wilson getting paid backup money and Jameis getting backup money. Like, Jameis is a better, more fun to watch quarterback than Daniel Jones. And like, that at least gives me some interest in watching this team. And I think that's what John Mara probably told Joe Schoen. We need our fans to be interested in watching. This is a business after all, guys. I want to be a great team, right? Like, everyone wants the Giants to be great, but that stadium was dead ass empty for like 7 games at the end of the year last year. It's unacceptable from a business perspective, right? You can't be putting out non-competitive teams and make money. John Mara is trying to run a business. The NFL is much better off when the Giants are a good football team, right? They had to get some damn fans in the seats this year. PSL skyrocketing, but the product decreasing, right? That is something that you cannot justify. Can't justify it. So the Giants went out and said, we got to make this team at least somewhat fun to watch, at least somewhat interesting, competitive at the very least. From a business perspective, they achieved that goal. Travis Hunter and Neighbors achieved that goal. Defense, Debo, and, obviously getting, not a couple other pieces here. Javon Holland achieved that goal. Your defense isn't going to be a freaking turnstile, and you have the draft. You could get a defensive tackle in the second round. Who knows, right? I really do think, like, from an optimistic perspective, and I'm trying to turn a new leaf here because it's been a while, Anthony, since we've been able to be positive, but at least it feels like the options are positive. Like, the avenues the Giants could take, a couple of them are really good options, right? Some of them impact them this year. Drafting a quarterback like Sanders probably doesn't impact them much in 2025, more so in 2026. But it does maybe convince John Mara to hold on a little bit longer to give them, a little bit more time. But man, like we keep saying, man, like the Giants, you don't want that new identity. Rather that you don't want that old pass rush identity. We want a new identity, something that's kind of fresh and bold in MetLife Stadium from the Giants. Neighbors and Hunter are a damn identity, a real identity. You know what I mean? That is something that you can market and you can build a business around. And Russell Wilson is a damn good stopgap quarterback to figure out, just push the can down the road. Because if Sanders isn't going to play much this year, it's not going to impact their business side of things this year. You know what I mean? He's just going to be sitting and watching, waiting and learning. Hunter's going to impact your business this year. Hunter's going to draw fans to the stadium. That is the truth. People aren't going to going to watch Sanders who's sitting on the bench. People are going to go to the stadium to watch Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors play football. They're going to go to watch Abdul Carter and Brian Burns rush the passer and Dexter Lawrence. That is what is going to bring business to the Giants this season, not drafting a quarterback at 3rd overall, because they're not going to play much. That's kind of where I see it from, like, just a pure business perspective, making the Giants an attractive product again. And I do think John Mara treats this like a business too, guys. You know what I mean? I don't think this is like, oh, like, we're fans, it's fun, it's this and that. But good business, bringing fans to the stadium, usually good business equals winning. You know what I mean? Usually good business, people coming interested in the game. I know, do we want business or wins? Usually those two things are a collaborative efforts. Those things are there's synergy between them. Good business decisions usually result in good process, good procedure, and winning football, right? So that's kind of what I would say. If they draft a Hunter or a Carter, it's going to help them be an attractive business destination in 2025, but it's also going to help them win football games in 2025. So that's kind of where I look at it from this perspective, which is why I'm like, I think they're going to go BPA at 3. I don't think they're going to draft Sanders at 3. But I do think they'll take a dev quarterback, maybe trade back up into the first for Jackson Dart. I could see that. And I think that makes the most sense for this team who needs to win football games right now. You know what I mean? Joe Schoen needs to win football games today. You know what I mean? Like, there's no more time to waste, even if he has a quarterback. If they win 4 games, but Sanders is on the bench, I still think he gets fired. And that's kind of how I feel about it right now. And that's the concern if you're Joe.
That is the concern, is keeping your job is priority number one, probably, for Joe Schoen. And, you make a lot of good points. And I do also think that the Giants very much could be looking for developmental quarterbacks, which is why, Alex, I'm going to say this here on the channel. In the coming days, we're going to have to do another live stream and look at one of these developmental prospects, right? Because we've done those quarterback live, all 22 breakdowns on the channel. You guys love them. I love doing them. I think they're a lot of fun. We're going to get back to it and start looking at, we'll keep looking at those top guys, because the more you evaluate, the more information you bring to the table, the better. But we're also going to start looking at some of those mid to late round quarterback prospects, since the New York Giants there seems to be some buzz. They could go BPA at 3 and a developmental prospect later in the draft, whether that's in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th remains to be seen. We're going to look at all of those guys in preparation so that you know what the Giants are getting when they draft that player. But Alex, man, we had almost 1,000 people in here combined between YouTube and Twitter. That's just incredible. I'm just going to take the second before we wrap up here to say thank you to everybody who was tuning in and viewing. Thank you to all of our loyal subscribers who are here for every single live stream and episode. Like, we really do appreciate all of you. We have so much fun talking New York Giants every day on this channel. Sure, sometimes the Giants really frustrate us and we don't want to talk about them, at least not nicely. But you know what? We've got a great community here that always makes talking Giants fun, which is why we do it every single day. So just going to say a big thank you to everybody who tuned in on this live stream before we do wrap it up. And one final question, just a fun one here for everybody to answer in the chat and from you, Alex. What number is Russell Wilson wearing this season, right? Because number 3 is held by Deonte Banks. Does he buy it off him? Banks literally just took number 3. Does he go for a different number? I know number 9 is one that people floated out there, but it's owned by Graham Gano. Could he buy it off of him? Does he just say, F it, give me like 33? Like how does this shape out? What's your prediction? What number is Russell Wilson wearing this season?
I think he should just have an unlimited sign for Mr. Unlimited.
I don't know. Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited. He's a character, man. Him and Jameis are going to be fun in the locker room. That's for sure. I think Jameis is like the locker room stabilizer. That's kind of how I view him right now. Like he's going to be fun. Like, he just brings the quotes and the energy, and he'll lock it down behind the scenes for us. Be ready to play whenever it's needed. But I don't know about his number. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. That's one I'm curious to see. I think Banks, maybe he'll buy it off of Banks, but for 1 year, is it really worth dropping a bag for 1 year of number 3? I
gotta say, this is pretty funny. Someone threw this in the chat. You take the 3, you add another 3, but flip it the other way. You get number 8. That kind of makes sense. Imagine we go from Daniel Jones 8 to yeah, dude, listen. I would actually be grossed out by that. I don't want to see an 8 quarterback. I have PTSD from Daniel Jones in the last 6 years that we went through, the ups and downs, peaks and valleys. Not very high peaks either with Daniel Jones. So hopefully not number 8. 2 is an interesting one. I don't know, 12 would be interesting. Oh, yeah, Javon Holland's going to wear 8 probably, so makes sense. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Get that number away from the quarterback position, honestly.
Yeah,
just get that, change that up. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. That'll be an interesting one to see. But 1 year, I don't think he's going to buy a number off anybody.
I agree. I think that, I think he's just going to take whichever lowest number they have possible for him. And they just like, screw it, whatever. It's 1 year anyway, most likely. But I think that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. Thank you to all 630 of you that are still in here viewing. Once again, thank you so much for all of the viewership. And we do hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, first of many throughout the rest of this offseason. We're in the home stretch now, leading up to the NFL draft. So live streams like this are pretty much going to be more frequent. And we really like doing them, especially as we get closer to the draft. We'll start pulling up some of those PFF mock draft machines, sharing them on the screen, and diving into our own personal mock drafts and really just having a lot of fun that way. So really looking forward to doing all of that and providing that content to everybody here on the channel. And thanks again for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode or a live stream. Make sure if you're watching the replay to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. And if you listen to Fireside Giants on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants. And let's go Yankees. Happy opening day to all of the Yankees fans.